What's going on, everyone? Jack here from Half Chrome, and this is the DJI FPV Drone. And I've really enjoyed flying this thing, but today I'm going to tell you the 10 things that I don't like about this drone. Now, if you're new to this channel, we make videos on things we don't like about drones. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. We're not worried about DJI not sending us free drones like maybe some other channels are. So we're going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about this drone and all the other drones. And if you're interested in a real review, click that subscribe button because that's what we do here. Anyway, let's talk about the 10 things that I dislike about this drone. First, let's talk about the price, $1,200. Now that's expensive, and I'm not saying that my other FPV quads don't get pricey. They can, right? Good pair of goggles can cost you $600, whether they're DJI or other. But $1,200 is the starting point, the entry level for this thing, and that is up there. Not to mention batteries are another $160 a pop. The Fly More combo at $300. It gets expensive really quick. And if you're trying to get into the hobby, that is a huge barrier to entry. Okay, so the second thing I don't like, flight characteristics. Flying this thing in acro is kind of underpowered. I get a little bit of prop wash. When I'm flying in sport mode, they've integrated the yaw and the roll together. It's kind of cool, but it's not how other drones fly. And I don't like those kind of invented flight modes. You got to kind of learn how to fly this drone different than you do other drones, and that's just not right if you ask me. Number 3 is lack of compatibility. This isn't the only DJI FPV drone that exists. This one's got an air unit, this one's got a Vista, and I've been flying these with my DJI goggles and my DJI remote controller, version 1. But I can't fly these with the new stuff. Why? Why the heck not? The lack of compatibility with the version 2 goggles and the version 2 remote is really kind of disappointing. Why can't I just have one remote to control all of my DJI FPV drones? Or one set of goggles? Why can't I use my old goggles, my old remote with this new drone? That's just really disappointing. My next gripe is with this controller itself. Now, I do actually really like gamepad style remotes, but when I fly acro, I tend to pinch. I feel I get a little bit more control, and as I rest my fingers up here, I've hit this pause button a few times by accident. Right? I'm really into a trick I'm trying to learn this juicy flick where you kind of flip and roll. It's just kind of an odd layout for pinchers. I'm not sure how they fix that, right? This gimbal wheel, I bumped that a couple of times. It messes the angle up while I'm flying, specifically in acro. Now, if you're a thumber, it just seems kind of natural, so maybe that's a non-issue for you, but just kind of an odd placement. I just don't know where to put my fingers if you're a pincher. All right, number 5, let's talk about this pause button. It is fantastic. It is a lifesaver. I've used it a couple of times to get me out of a jam or just to kind of scratch an itch that I might have had on my forehead. But I've also hit this button by accident, and the way that the drone responds, specifically when I'm flying in manual or acro mode, is just inconsistent. Sometimes when I hit this button, it'll pause, and then I can't fly for like 30 seconds. I can't fly in normal mode. I've tried flipping this, toggling it, and I just can't go anywhere, right? Once I was stuck above a tree, literally stuck above a tree, and all I could do was raise the altitude, and that's just, that's not good. So eventually I got control. I don't understand the inconsistency when I hit that. Like, I understand the drone's got to pause, you got to collect yourself and then be able to fly, but why can't I just flip that button into normal mode and then get going? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now, that's something I think they could probably fix with a firmware update, but just the inconsistencies shouldn't exist. Let's talk about this, the DJI motion controller. And this is actually really cool, super intuitive, easy to use. Chris is making a video where Vero flies a drone. She's never flown drones before. She's using this to fly this FPV drone. Now, all that sounds great, but why? Why is this paired with the FPV drone? These two things, they just don't go together, right? This is a ripper. This is a potential freestyle drone. You can only go forward. There's no sideways or backwards with this remote. It just really seems pretty darn limited and kind of short-sighted to release it with this FPV drone. It just doesn't seem like a good match. Where I think DJI missed the boat is being able to pair this and this at the same time, right? So what if Chris was learning how to fly acro? He needs to use this remote. But what if I had the ability to use this one and just have this pause button active, right? Like a buddy system. So he's flying. He doesn't have to worry about finding that pause button. I have the pause button here. That would be a game changer, right? DJI, let us pair both of these at the same time. Only make the pause button active on this one, and we can use it as a safety measure while people learn how to fly. That would be fantastic. That would make this worth it. Otherwise, it's just kind of a $200 accessory that's kind of a neat little parlor trick. All right, so let's talk about this camera. And I do like the camera. It's a nice camera, but I can only shoot at 60 frames a second, 4K 60. That's great. Sometimes even 1080 60 is nice to be able to shoot in, but why can't I shoot at 30 frames per second? You know, if I don't have a super fast or powerful computer, 60 frames a second is gonna really slow that down as I try to edit. Also, why can't I adjust the stabilization in post, right? So you see this tiny little camera, this Insta360 Go, I can decide whether or not I want to stabilize it in post, and it does a better job. Real Steady Go is something that you can use to stabilize your footage if you're using a GoPro after the fact, right? So it would be really nice to be able to stabilize the footage, and I think it would do a better job if we had that option in post. Some people complain about getting props in this shot as you're flying. You know, I don't know that there's a way around it because there's so many different camera angles that you could be flying with this drone, but that's just something to keep in mind. And again, in post, we can kind of zoom in and get that out of the way. So it just would be nice to have an editor that kind of did some of that with this, right? You can edit some of the other footage with other DJI apps. Why not give us a dedicated app that can do that? Why not add some of that cropping or stabilization to the Fly app in that editing process? While we're talking about the app is actually kind of disappointing. Now I can change settings in the goggles. Actually, that's how I have to change settings, but why can't I use the app to do that also? That would be really nice. The app is really only good to connect your phone so that a friend can see what you're seeing, right? But it's also, again, kind of limited. Why can't they get some of that information that I see on the screen, right? How much battery life do I have left? How far away am I? How fast am I going? Where's the home point? Why can't I see any of that on the screen, or why don't I have an option for some of that? That would make the app a whole lot better and a whole lot more useful, especially with someone that's watching as I fly. Okay, so now we're getting to some of those things that I really dislike about it. And I dislike the way this thing is built, right? Plastic? Why no carbon fiber frame, right? It just seems like that's a big mistake. You know, when it is sturdy, I have crashed and it didn't break, but at some point it will. At some point it's going to break if you crash hard. Now, I don't think that this is meant to be a freestyle ripper, right? I think it's kind of best as like a long-range drone where you're kind of swooping and flying. You can do acro with this, and it should be a little bit more durable and able to handle a crash or two. So just kind of the way that it was built should have been carbon fiber, should have been easier to replace some of these pieces and bits, but what do I know? Okay, and on that note, you know, you're going to crash it, it's going to break, and you're going to need to replace some parts, right? And why are the parts not super readily available? Why is there not already somebody making a carbon fiber frame for this thing? Somebody get on that, right? There should be a better availability of parts. And to that, like, these parts are expensive. These props, $15 for a set of props. Ouch. We need more options in terms of replaceable parts, and we need them to be less expensive. I love these quick change props, but I'd only have one option. Why can't I have a third-party option? Somebody's got to start making these things, right? Let's go. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of other bonus things that I'm not a big fan of. The app, the simulator app specifically, it's okay, right? I guess if you've never flown acro, it's a good way to learn how to fly, but the physics just aren't up to par with some of the other simulators like Liftoff or Velocidrone. I heard Rotoride even has their own simulator now. I got to check that one out. And it's also not available on Android, or at least it wasn't initially, so that's kind of a bummer. So yeah, it's okay. It's great that it's free, but you can only pair it with this. And the goggles, you can't use, you know, a different remote. I guess you could use an Xbox remote, but again, that's kind of goofy. So the simulator is a little bit disappointing. The other thing that's disappointing is this obstacle avoidance, right? It doesn't actually avoid anything. It just kind of says, hey, obstacle coming, and it slows you down. So it just kind of seems almost like a waste to me. Like, take this out, make it lighter. I don't know. But anyway, those are the gripes that I have with this DJI FPV drone. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I actually do. It is a nice, fun drone to fly, but there are just some things that could have been improved. If I was DJI, I probably would have made a 3-inch or something smaller and lighter before I went to this giant behemoth. But I'm not DJI, and nobody asked me. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. If it was, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We've got reviews on drones, cameras, 3D printers, all sorts of fun stuff. So we'd love to see you back. We also give away a drone once a month to a Patreon subscriber. If you want details on that, check out the video description down below. Hey, good luck everyone, and happy flying.